This is Lifestyle Locker Radio, and you're listening to the best of Immunopalooza. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we help you create an awesome life and lifestyle. From nutrition to fitness, mindfulness to peak performance, and relationships to money mindset, we bring you on an amazing journey to help you unleash your human potential. Hey, we just want to let you know that all of the recordings of Immunopalooza were actually done on Facebook Live. So what we're doing is compiling all of them into one place where you can actually listen to all of them. We've put together our favorite ones, which were voted on by our guests and all the comments that came in. So I hope you enjoy these, and definitely check the show notes because there will eventually be a link for you to actually get all of the videos and have access to them. All right, y'all, enjoy the show. Hey everyone, we are back for day 3 right now. We have a couple bonus people coming up. This is Dr. Dan Sullivan. I am pumped to have him on here. This guy's got a brain inside him like no other. And you're going to learn a lot about the nervous system today. You're going to learn a lot about the immune system and health, and I'm sure more. So Dan, welcome, bud.
It's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me. And man, let's bring some sanity and some peace and calm amongst the time. So glad you're doing this.
Yeah, me too. So give the audience a little bit of an idea of who you are, what you do. You're a chiropractor, but you also teach chiros as well. So just give people the idea of what you do, and then we can just dive right into the nuts and bolts of this thing.
Well, I would say first and foremost, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm just a passionate guy that's trying to seek answers. So yeah, I'm a chiropractor. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the science and the research and the evidence, the neurology, and I've owned multiple practices. I've seen everything that a chiropractor would see and that come with. I've traveled around the world. I've been an Olympic team chiropractor. I was in London Olympics. I've been in a couple world championships. I've taken care of a lot of athletes. I've kind of I've spoken on world stages at the World Health Organization. I was been at a lot of different health seminars, and that's kind of usually where I spend my time, although pretty grounded right now, which is a good thing. And I would just say, maybe just to shine light on the current situation, I'm in this, as you, Doc, it's the same thing. Like I'm in this just like everyone else, right? And so the thing that nobody has the answers, let's say that, but there are some things obviously that we can do and are doing that can help ensure the best outcomes in this kind of uncharted territory.
Exactly. That's what we got to dive into. So I figured having you here, we'd be talking about the nervous system and the power of keeping that healthy. So you want to just start to dive in a little bit, because I know we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about some movement, we've talked about quite a few things over the past couple of days. But I want to get into the master system of the body. I want to, show that connection, because I want to empower people to be better. I want to empower people to be happier, healthier. And, we can do good things even when times are bad, but not only now. Like, you can take what we're going to teach and move it into your future. It doesn't need to be just now. So,
yeah. Let me start here. And I don't know, again, all the aspects, like you said, you've had a lot of different experts on, as I've kind of watched and paid attention to, that you have. So I don't want to be, so it's repetitive, right? Some of this will be repetitive because
it should be.
Yeah. Because when you study the laws of health and healing, it just becomes that. So I want to start off here though. And this is probably where my heart really, and it's interesting because this is where the rubber meets the road in terms of your daily, hourly perspective, right? I always call it, it's almost like your worldview, whether, do you believe that you're equipped to handle certain situations? Do you believe your body's equipped? Do you believe that your children's bodies are equipped? And so I don't love when somebody says, well, just believe it, right? Just trust me because I said so. The power that made the body heals the body. In our profession, that's what's said. And although those are good cliches and lines, give me some meat on the bones. Like, what does that mean, right? Well, how can I really kind of anchor in? And so for me, it is actually evaluating what is, like, let's not forget how this all came to be, meaning we were created in 2 cells, turn into, trillions of cells. Yeah. And why that matters is because we first understand, and I if you just dial this down, I'm a kind of heady researcher, analytical guy. You go back to guys like Rupert Sheldrake and Bruce Lipton and these scientific philosophers, but they back it up with science. So one of the things that I'm always drawn to is do we have everything figured out, right? In medicine and conventional care. So I come from, my background, by the way, is my two oldest brothers are medical doctors. My mom's been a nurse for 35 years. My sister's an occupational therapist. So I didn't grow up in natural care, natural health, chiropractic, none of that. Always foreign to me until 22 years old. And so so I dove in thinking, what is this? And what are these crazy cuckoo chiropractors? Why do they always talk about the body heals itself? And although some was common sense, my thought was, why doesn't anybody else talk about this or know about this? So part of my kind of journey is realizing what other people are saying. And so a guy I really ascribe to and read all about is a guy named Rupert Sheldrake. What he did, he was in college at King's College in the 60s with a guy named Francis Crick, right? And Francis Crick was one of the guys that coined and founded and developed the understanding behind DNA, transformed the world as we know it in terms of health. Well, Francis Crick and this guy named Ed Brenner were two PhDs, Nobel Prize winners, like amazing minds. And they were recruiting these students in the 60s to help them establish that the way we view health and the way that we look at the body could be described by physics and chemistry alone. Their thought was this: the reason why people haven't really gotten this figured out is because most of the people weren't very bright. The molecular biologists, they said that it's just not smart enough. So they were going to take 20 years to figure this thing out. And what they said was to knock the final nail into the coffin of vitalism, meaning they wanted to establish that you could describe, understand, and create health and a healthcare system completely underneath one umbrella, that the body is nothing more than the sum of its parts. So if you take it apart, something goes wrong, you take it out, or you just have a drug for it, or like you could describe
the way a car works, right? The way people maybe think a car works or a machine works, right?
Exactly. And the reason why this is important for us is that what they found out, and this Rupert Shaw talk about that, they spent 20 years. In fact, Francis Crick, again, brilliant, genius guy, ends up on the week before he died, he ended up publishing a manuscript on the brain, part of the brain, got a Nobel Prize for it. Ed Brenner did another PhD, like all this kind of crazy work. Brilliant dudes. But here's what it came down to. It said, yet that their quest to figure this thing out in terms of the body can be described more, right, failed. They failed. They said with genomes ever precise, we have technology that can see things, understand things, look at things ever more. But yet life and health and minds cannot be described by physics and chemistry alone. Now, why do I start off there? Is because when you look at health and all the things you're talking about, Dr. Josh, when we look at health, we have to take into account that the body is more than the sum of its parts, and there is an intelligence in it that's constantly and out allowing us to adapt to all the environment. So think about this. We're breathing in constantly, good, bad, and different, right? Your body ate some food, and your body broke it down without you having to think about it for a second.
Yep.
And it got rid of the waste, and then it took the nutrients, diluted it through your intestines, and then that got into the bloodstream, and then that created tissue or supported tissue. It's so mind-numbing to even think about that, like how that can happen. But what we do as chiropractors, what we do as natural health doctors is say, there's something to that. We don't know everything about it. I can't even claim to sit up here and try to describe it to you. Here's what I will tell you, is that there's an intelligence that's way beyond the human's levels of intelligence, and we trust that has some answers when others don't, or when it comes to battling anything, that we've got to look. So how do we? Let me put some kind of really like exclamation point on that. So, for instance, one drop of blood contains 5 million red blood cells, 7,000 white blood cells, and thousands of platelets. Things that are fighting on our behalf. So I guess I wanted to make the kind of record straight. Let me tell you another example. So when a mom you've everyone that's ever heard me speak, I talk about this. I tell my wife, I'm always talking about breasts, right? Because
of course,
breast milk, a nursing mother is a very descriptive way to understand how powerful the body is. So you can go online, you could Google breast milk, pumped breast milk after a baby or a sick baby. Right. And you'll get images, and the images are, so a mom will pump breast milk, and it'll be white milk that you can see, obviously looks like milk. And then after, and this has been done many times now, a mom will be maybe nursing through the night, and her baby will get sick or has gotten sick, and then gets up the next morning and pumps breast milk. And the breast milk looks yellow. It looks like colostrum.
Discolored, right? Yeah.
So what is it? It's immune fighting chemistry. That milk is specifically designed for that baby to help them, nourish them in this time of need of. So why is that important? Again, it's because as awesome as moms are and as intelligent as women are, we are not capable to say in the middle of that, I need to create some amazing chemically effective.
Not a thought.
Not conscious. So why we come to this moment right here, right now, in the things that are going on around us. And I just want to make sure you guys understand, as whoever's out there listening, that your body, we can still trust our body. And obviously isn't justifying our inactivity. This is the exact reason to say, when you actually honor your body and really understand the ability and the awesomeness of it, it actually makes me want to do more for it. It makes me want to honor it more. It makes me want to have a lifestyle that actually is very conducive to making it do its thing or maximizing the expression. And obviously, Josh, that's why we're here, right? And that's,
exactly.
The precast to what to do. So
yeah. So really, I think just to put that in the little package for people, the body is smart. The intelligence, we should say, inside the body is incredibly smart. And we've been fighting viruses for millennia, right? We've been when I use the example in our practice, and we talk about just something as simple as cutting your finger. Is it the Band-Aid that does the healing, or is it your body that does the healing? And you talk about a drop of blood. Forget about it. How many drops of blood could be coming out of your finger when you cut your finger? And it's these numbers are astounding, and the body knows the exact amount at the exact time to do the exact thing. So you can fight off infection. You can fight off all this stuff. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. No, it is. So let's give some really tactics, right? So I'm again a guy, but what can we put in a wheelbarrow and take away first? And the reason why I start with that is because, if you look left and right, and I was walking the other day, I had gotten gas, and it's just kind of amazing because I'm like, wow, I can't believe we're living through this time right now. It's like a guy had, and I'm not judging it's like a guy had basically pulled up his shirt and wrapped his arms in the shirt in order to get the door open because he didn't want to touch it. It came to me. I'm like, man, we are living through some interesting times. I'm not saying it's not valid. It's not just. Here's what I am saying is when we can the biggest thing in neurology and even in the clinical aspect of improving immunity is that we got to get the stress response down. Getting your body, and I'll try to keep big words down, but we know that through the science is that when your sympathetic tone of your nervous system, part of your nervous system that's wired to respond to a stress, if you're getting chased by a tiger or bear, very needed in a time of stress and fight or flight, moms that can lift cars off babies, that stress response, it does things in our body that's very amazing for that short period of time. The problem is if it's a long period of time, or even actually if it lasts for longer than it needs to, more than 20, 30, 40 minutes, we get in trouble. That's where it's very immunosuppressive. It's very driven to, it's digestion and growth and development and hormones that support, living our natural state are not supported. So what I first want to make sure everyone knows is what are the things that you can do. Now, again, hysteria, I'm sure you guys hit on this. Yeah, be aware of what's going on, but don't be so caught up in it that you're so scared and fearful. And I know those are words and they're just a guy trying to tell you to do that. And that doesn't mean much. I want to say, let's shift and say, if my body is capable, then that becomes empowering for me versus I'm so worried, I'm so stressed. So that being said, first and foremost, understanding that I'm going to try to get now. What do I do? One of the things that we do, and I do this more naturally. I mean, again, it isn't because of this time. I do it. Every time I get done with the gym in the morning. One of the things I focus on the way home is I got a certain amount of time that I drive to the gym, then I drive home, and I'm always listening to some sort of scripture in my head, something I'm reading from the Bible that day that I would hear, and then I do a deep breathing, like a breathing. So we know, like deep rhythmic breathing and diaphragmatic breathing actually brings, it's been done through studies over studies, brain fMRIs, it actually brings down that stress response. So first and foremost, let's do something simple. Take a couple times per day, and it doesn't have to be magic. You don't have to have some sort of huge, YouTube channel to understand this. Do deep breaths all the way that your diaphragm gets engaged. That's where they found the magic was, the diaphragm. The other thing is your lungs, believe it or not, like your lungs, most of us only use a third of our lungs. If you can get lungs into the 2/3 through deep breathing, that's when you engage a lot more of this ability to decrease the stress response. So easy things, simple things. That's one. The next thing I'll obviously I want to get into the chiropractic part or the nervous system part, but the other piece of the nervous system, this is so simple. I'm going to tell you, and people, anybody that hears me say, I don't have the books here, but I probably read about 3 or 4 books on this, and you could Google this. It's called Expressive Writing. I literally always have books laying around of it, but it's called Expressive Writing, and it's going to sound so elementary, so goofy,
Good.
so weird.
Simple works.
You're going to think there's no way that would do anything, but I'm going to tell you the research is so unequivocal on this. It is amazing. So here's what you do. So simple. You're going to take a piece of paper. Right? You're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to take a pen and you're going to, right, in the morning, I would suggest if you got kids, do it before they wake up so you could just get in a certain space and or at night before they go or after they go down. And you're literally going to write on this piece of paper your thoughts, what you're thinking, right? And here's what they say, the experts on this and some of the scientists on this will say, here's the key. You do want to try to get the most emotionally charged things in your mind. And today we all have a certain amount of emotionally charged things.
I would agree now, right? So, especially now.
So here's the deal, man. And you could do this. It's so simple. You take that and you write it on a piece of paper, right? And they say take anywhere from 2 to 5 to 8 minutes to do it. Some people will be quicker than others. And it doesn't even need to be legible. Here's why it's so crazy when you look at this. It doesn't even need to be legible. Somebody doesn't, if you showed it to your husband or your wife after you got done, they don't even need to read it. If they couldn't read any of it, it didn't matter. It was your thoughts expressed on a piece of paper. And what the research shows is that there's a space between your thoughts and what you wrote down. And this creation of space is actually very counseling to us. It's almost like speaking to a counselor, like we know the research. So here's what I'm saying is, now here's when after you get done writing that, you know what you do? It's not a journal. We're not journaling. Yeah. Because the difference is that when you get done with that, when you get done writing your stuff, what you do is you tear it up and you throw it in the waste paper and it's done. And that's what they say. And so like, they don't know all the mechanisms behind this because it's so simple.
Yeah.
But here's what they're saying is that when you create that space between your thoughts and the paper, right? You see them out there, whatever your thought was. And then it's almost like it gives you an experience to separate yourself from them. And it's a very positive effect on the neurology, that stress response. So again, I would say some of you are like, no, there's no way that works. Yeah. Just humility. And I'll tell you from an immune system standpoint, something so simple, but yet something so profound that through research has been very clear. So we got deep diaphragmatic breathing, we've got expressive writing, and then and I don't know if you want to.
Let me add something actually to that. So I interviewed this gentleman named Dr. Michael Bruce. He's like known as the sleep doctor, world famous, been on like Dr. Oz like 50 times. Like he's on the advisory board, so on and so forth. And when I interviewed him, what he mentioned, this is going back probably about a year. He didn't talk about it that way about your thoughts, but he said to go to bed, to have better sleep, to let your body calm down, essentially reduce that stress response. He goes, your people are constantly thinking about their tomorrow. So he would say, put everything down on a piece of paper so you can just dump it out of your brain. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there. But I like this one now because times are definitely different now. People need to sleep more. People need to boost their immune system, need to recover more. So I love this, that you get to put down whatever it is, whatever like that thing that's in your head that's stuck, when you get it on paper. And I like that you tear it up. It's like when we do fire walks I've done with my father, we put these it's the same concept. It's so cool, but it's so powerful. And I think that's a huge win. I will start that tonight before I go to bed as an extra thing. So thank you for the addition.
I literally had to, again, me and my weird kind of analytical mind. I'm trying to think of the mechanism, what is it? And the thing that baffled me was that it didn't have to be legible. like the fact that it didn't have to be legible, like it was like, okay, so how does that even, and it turns out it's just that the process of doing that allows us to escape. It's kind of like meditation. I had this one lady who did this program for me one time, and I asked her, I'm like, I've never been good at meditation. It's always kind of confused me. Can you tell me how do I know I'm doing it effectively? And she's like, there's no such thing. Because that's the problem. Like we think that there's got to be some sort of magic. There's no magic. And so I guess you've had a lot of guests. Yeah. I think that for a listener here, one thing that about me is I'm a fifth of 8 children. I'm a middle child, kind of always had that journey of seeking attention, but also prove. I think that a lot of times if you're like me, I complicate things. I think it's got to be done perfectly. And I think if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it. That we've got to scrap that right now. I just kind of like borrow, doctor's belief here, or borrow, Dr. Joshua. So we have to say, okay, I just need to get into action. Yeah. I need to get into activity. I need to just do it, right? Mm-hmm. And when you do it, there's something about activity that breeds it. So that said, the other thing that I would just really, really emphasize is, is moving your body. And I know that even amongst the situation, and you've talked about this over and over and over again, but again, it's magic, right? So like no magic. Yeah, there's no magic here, and a lot of people confined to their own garage or your own bedroom or your own room or a living room. But I want to speak to it from a neurological standpoint. So even something as simple as what we call spinal movement, right? Mm-hmm. And why spine, right? This is the thing that we deal with. Is like, why do you chiropractors claim this? You think that the spine is so important because that's what you do and that's what you work on. And I always say, you know what, Mary, I sometimes wish that was the case, right? It's like yeah, if I was a hand specialist, or a podiatrist, I would tell you how important your feet are. But in this case, if you just look at and evaluate the neurology and the science behind the spine and what surrounds it and the joints and how those are so densely populated with all these tiny little neurons and these tiny muscles that you can't move. Like I could tell you right now, Josh, that, hey, move your T5, which is the middle part of your back, yeah. One bone in the middle part of your back. Move that without, but do it without moving T4 or T6. Yeah. So the reason why I say it is because your spine is a kinetic chain, and the way it's designed, I mean, we are created so incredibly that it's the way it's designed that it needs movement in order to send this normal feedback into the brain. And that's why our bodies were made. That movement and that alignment allows certain receptors and nerves to fire off into the brain that allow that brain to have some normalcy. Like, wow, okay, I know where that's at. And part of it is because the brain has to know where the body's at in space to protect it, right? So if I lift my arm up, you can't see this, but if I lift my arm up here, yeah. I got to know where that arm is, and my brain can tell where that arm is without seeing it. And that's these receptors. And so you have them loaded in your spine, because your spine is, what we found is, like, it's actually more of what we call a neurospinal organ. It's like it's got its own, it's like an organ. So now, why does this matter? Is that it's sending feedback in your brain, and what we know, we just talked about the stress response. If that spine is not moving or aligned appropriately, it actually creates the stress response in your body. It will essentially be as if a tiger is constantly chasing you, or you've got a bear in the room, and so what it does with blood pressure, what it does was it takes the blood and starts to get it out of the viscera and gets them into the external, your extremities, so that as if you got a fight or flight, you're gonna, it takes what's interesting is when you study the stress response, it actually takes your attention to detail and heightens it, because you got to be able to be on the move if you're fight or flight. But it also, from your immune system standpoint, it will actually, like platelets are ready and on the move. So like, for instance, if you got cut, that area from an immune system, very active and quick. Yeah. And that part of the immune system goes up, but at the expense of what? You don't need to fight off some sort of virus at that time. You've got to just survive. So if you think about that, if your body's in this stress response, then we're sacrificing what the research is clear that it's immunosuppressive. Being in that stress response long-term particularly is very immunosuppressive.
Yeah.
So we know it's moving that spine, right, is so important. Getting mobility, doing just spinal range of motion exercises at home, so important, as well as obviously, some sort of exercise is going to get oxygen to the cells. But this is where chiropractic,
right?
There you go.
So grab one of these at your house. Many of you may even have one of these and sit on it. And just like Dan was just moving his body, like that is something you can do every single day, right? Forward and back and sideways. And this is something we teach in our practice also before you even get adjusted. But it's just creating that natural movement while you're sitting on it. So it doesn't have to be hard, right? None of this has to be hard.
I'm a simple guy, man. So so that's where chiropractic comes into, right? So like chiropractic has an ability to influence so many things outside of just chiropractic, or just outside of what most people think, back pain, neck pain, headaches. And we're living in a time right now, and man, most people don't know this, but chiropractic, we've been around for 124 years, it's funny what's currently, like, you see both sides in certain professions, in our profession and other professions, but why we've survived so long has been on one thing and one thing only, and that's results. And results with all different walks of life, all problems, all challenges. If you just interviewed any chiropractor that spent any time with people and been in practice for more than 6 months, they've seen things from women that couldn't get pregnant, migraines and hormone problems and immune system things. So now that becomes those are good anecdotal stories. But I always go back to, is there science that backs up the mechanism as to how those could happen? And that's what I'm here to like that with beyond a shadow of a doubt. We have the understanding as to how the science backs up now why we've seen things that didn't seemingly relate to the spine were influenced through adjustment. And that's what we're here to say. But I'm going to tell you this, same thing, a chiropractic adjustment is not intended, again, you talk about this, we talk about stuff, it's not intended to heal, cure, mitigate, prevent anything, right? It's just like if you went to the gym and got a trainer, or you went to the gym and they're not there to treat diabetes or your blood pressure problems, or even, weight loss for that matter. They're there to move your body to change some metabolism and function and the biochemistry of your body and the organs and the oxygen levels in the pumping of the blood. So point is, as a result, all these benefits are happening through exercise. But they don't hang a stick, say, hey, we do all these things. No, but it comes with the territory because of the physiology that is changed because of it. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with chiropractic. Right. And so we know physiology changes because of the spine's interrelationship with your brain, your central nervous system. And in this case, how it affects so many different areas: heart, lungs, immunity, digestion, breathing, sleeping. And that's all because it's the autonomic function and the improvement there.
Yeah. So when we talk about, people using or going to their chiropractors during these times, as long as we're able to keep doing that, how does it, because you're the science guy, and that's why I love having these conversations with you. So when we start to perform adjustments, these spinal adjustments with people, what's actually going on? I know you're talking about brain, body, brain, these things are happening. Can you break it down simply for our audience just to say, this is the magic behind how it turns these things on or ramps them up or gets them closer to functioning to 100%?
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was talking about just before, which is if we understand how the spine is wired, if you will, and what I mean by that is, your spine is made of 24 different. You got one right there behind you there.
Yes.
Right. The spine has 24 different segments, and they sit on top of each other. And there's multiple joints most people have heard of a disc, right? That disc, point to the disc area, which is just that big area. Yeah. So that's the disc. So that's a joint itself, right? And that's got mobility and obviously padding. You can tell it's padded. But there's also other joints within the spine, in the back, right? So you got these facet joints. And so all loaded in and around these joints are receptors, or what we call tiny little neurons. And these neurons are sending feedback into your brain every millisecond of our lives. Like, they are sending why. Why do they do that? Because, again, they got to know what's going on so the body can protect itself. Mm-hmm. So if there was some sort of, lack of mobility or lack of movement or a stretching or a distortion, that the body's going to respond to try to protect you. And so the brain needs to know what's going on. So all these tiny little neurons are in and around there to protect you, to send feedback into the brain every millisecond of our lives. Now, here's what happens is that through stresses of life, right? Whether physically, chemically, and emotionally, stresses of life, whether you're, under a lot of stress, people say, well, I carry my tension. I got this tension between my shoulders.
Yeah.
Exactly. Emotional stress can breed, even tension, physical tension in the body of the spine. Physical, obviously, you have car accidents, sports injuries, all these things. Then you've got, chemical and the toxicity that could, cause muscles to tighten up and split. So all these things are stressors that can influence the spine and create lack of mobility and alignment. So those tiny little, the bones can just shift, and around there, right, will be this musculature that will splint up. And when that musculature starts to split up, it's not the big voluntary muscles. It's these tiny little muscles in and along the spine. They're actually, people will call them like the eyes of the brain, because they're almost all sensory. They're not like ones that you can voluntarily move. Yeah. That's important is when those start to splint up, or when those start to change, that the neurons, right, start to send this, what we call aberrant afferent input into the brain, that the input in the brain becomes altered. I don't like to call it abnormal, because it's actually, it's like if you broke your arm, right? You've got a lot of firing off going on in the brain. One, you got splitting of muscles, you got blood vessels that need to split up, you got some blood that needs to get in, start healing it immediately, this cascade. But also you got splinting so that it doesn't go any worse. And then you've got tons of pain gate that opens up to tell your body, your brain, stop moving this. There's a problem here. Get help, right? So the pain is always the last thing to show up in the spine, especially how when this shifting happens. What you need to know is that shifting, right, creates this firing off of these neurons that now we know hits the brain, and it starts this fight or flight, this stress response. That becomes the piece that actually is connected to so many different areas of or some functions of the body. So what does an adjustment do? A chiropractor doesn't just randomly adjust people wherever he wants to, right? A chiropractor assesses the spine and evaluates for where these problems are, these stress areas in the spine, what we call subluxation, these areas of disturbance, these areas of lack of mobility and misalignment that's very subtle, right? A lot of times, like, why do you get checked and adjusted often, right, Doc? Why do I get, it's not because I'm in pain, right? Yeah. It's because I need to be checked up to see if I have any of these lack of mobility and alignment. And then the adjustment creates better mobility, restores that motion, and then those neurons in and around there now send that normal feedback into the brain that allows the brain to calm the nervous system, and it switches from the stress physiology or this stress function over to the body's now calming, and the autonomic system calms, and growth and reproduction and repair begins to occur at a higher rate than before. So I don't know if I did a good job.
That's great. And I think simplicity like that was done really well. And I think we're going from like a dysfunctional, not just a spinal joint or bone, like may start there, but then it affects the body, because the body, we said, like, we go from 2 cells to trillions of cells. It can affect the way the body overall, like the way it functions, period. Because it's hard to connect a lot of the dots all the time, right? Like, so if someone is coming in and we start adjusting them, we mentioned this with people getting pregnant, but like something common that I'll see is people will come in and go, does it make sense that my digestion's getting better? Like, that's and I go, remember we talked to the nerds, we're like, but you're not adjusting my stomach. I go, no, we're not adjusting your stomach. Like, the neurology, the way the brain and the body communicates, and, the blood, it's all interconnected. So it's not like A plus B equals C. Sometimes the A plus B equals Z. And it's hard to connect that. So the power is behind that.
And it's all has to do with this, the brain and nervous system. Here's the thing that's driving me crazy. So I will, you did take me over to this edge. Here's why. Here's what happens is that there's doctors that you and I know. I'm not necessarily an upper cervical only, but there are doctors that are upper cervical only. What that means is they adjust only one bone. They assess one bone, address one bone. And guess what? When they do that, they've seen results with you name it. But let's just go here. They've seen results when they adjust here, and back pain goes away completely.
Yeah.
Right here. Like, I had a guy up in Canada. I was doing this talk in Mike, and he was like, he had a sequestered disc, essentially that disc that had pretty much, protruded so far, pain down his leg. He was a chiropractor. He was going for a surgical consult, but in the midst of that, he actually went to start seeing upper cervical only chiropractor. And guess what? Everything got better. He was able to avoid the surgery, all because of this. Sequestered disc was at L4. So the reason why I get fired up about this, because there are people in our profession right now saying that there's no evidence that supports the chiropractic's role of the adjustment's role on function outside of pain and mobility. Mm-hmm. Things like immune, heart, lungs, and that is discounting science and physiology as we know it today.
Yeah, 100%.
That's so. But here's the thing: they will acknowledge that somebody could get adjusted upper cervical and their low back pain could go away. But so if you can acknowledge that, then I've got you, because that is happening because of the response, the relaxation of certain muscles, the response of the stress that has gone down, that has allowed the body to start to align itself through the soft tissue and the neurology. And if somebody could get that and that, it's the same mechanism as to why we influence the immune system or the hearts or the lungs or digestion, and why people have. I had 19 women, this was over a period of time, 19 women, because once you get like somebody gets pregnant and they're really connected, like I had like, dozens of women that get sent in. Like, I heard you got, I heard you got Samantha pregnant, and then I heard you got that, right? And it's like, no, here's what I did. We remove interference and we allow the body to heal. In her case, there was certain interference there that wasn't allowing certain hormone production and balance in that. And because of that, right? So, and not every woman, by the way, not every woman that gets adjusted is able to get pregnant. That's not the point. Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. We remove interference. And so I say that because something to that degree, it's all autonomic function. It's all reestablishing normal, balancing normal function. And so that's where this fires me up, because it's just human physiology. And they'll say we don't have the credible evidence. Listen, I'm not arguing that we have all the evidence and peer-reviewed, double-blinded, randomized controlled trials that validate it all. I'm saying we got something better in my mind. It's called science. And we have clinical evidence to support the science and the understanding of the mechanism. So I want you as a patient, you as maybe just a human being that's trying to navigate through this kind of thing, this craziness we have going on. I want you to know that there's certain doctors like Dr. Josh, myself, and certain natural health providers and chiropractors that will actually help you and walk you through. Here's what there's no debate on. There's all controversy around what is and what we got to do. There's no debate on the fact that the primary objective of all humans, in order to actually deal with this, avoid this, help ourselves, is to improve immunity, is to improve your body's own ability to be resilient and strong as it relates to autonomic nervous system. And so this is why, Dr. Josh, this is, things like this and what you're doing and, spending the last 15 hours on your feet trying to
exactly.
That's why this matters, because we are doctors with hearts that's trying to say, listen, we don't know it all. We're not saying that, but we are saying the things that we do have control over is helping people understand how to better equip and build resilience within their body and their family. Same thing, like everything I just talked about, right? I do with my children. I've got 3 girls, 9, 6, and 2. As far as putting the right foods in, getting their body. This morning we had a Zoom. I'm actually very appreciative of this. Like, my girls are big dancers, and so their dance class was all on Zoom today. That they did. Great. I'm like, that's a brilliant idea. We had in the garage, had this setup going on. Get their bodies moving, right? Get their bodies moving. Just put the right things in. Speak life into your kids. Let them make sure they're staying rested and well slept and everything like that. So
I think this was awesome. I think that's a good pump the brakes right there, because we've been through the movement, we've been through the nutrition, we've been through a lot of quite amazing things, meditation, and to hit on the central nervous system and hit on the power of the intelligence inside the body, and just trusting what is real, trusting what has been real since I guess man and woman's been alive. I mean, that's, the 2 cells to trillions. And if what chiropractors ultimately what we're doing, and I think what's powerful is that process, we go from the 2 cells to the organ system. So the human body, like, we're recreating and allowing that process to constantly happen, because we're constantly recreating new cells and constantly doing with our chiropractic adjustments, we're constantly allowing that process to be normalized. And Dan, I want to thank you so much. This is so good. I think we have a lot of people that have their eyes open a little more and are a little more hopeful in a situation that is challenging nonetheless. So the biggest thing we can give, and the drug we give, is what we call hopium at this point. Mm-hmm. And then we got to give the adjustment as well. So I think that's fantastic.
And I appreciate it, man. And I'll just close on this. I was I work out with a guy, a buddy of mine, he's a chiropractor, and he was telling me this morning, this kind of gets wrapped up. Like, obviously most places are shut down. There's not a lot of, even like churches and places that we typically, obviously, you can watch sermons online and people are, going all online. And I do feel, we are called to be in a spirit of faith and belief and not just fear. Fear really will but that's what we're seeing. It's the currency of like, hysteria, right? Yeah. So we got to call you. And I'm saying this, and he gave me examples. He goes, I was talking to this gal yesterday who had come in and she's just stressed, like she's stressed. And I could tell it. And he goes, I asked her, like, what are you really, like, what is a really concern? Is it the virus? Is it, what's going on? She goes, a little bit, but she goes, it's more just like everything that's going on and uncertainty in my job and finances and then combined with health and what I'm going to do and my kids at school. And I thought, and he goes, I just spent a minute with her and just like, here's the thing. I get it. And I get all that. I want you to think about things that you're grateful for. And I also want you to think about all the blessings amongst this craziness and time. And he kind of just walked through and he goes, and then his staff had sent forwarded him something that she had posted later on that day on her Facebook page saying that she had been to her chiropractor, but got an adjustment, felt better, but also like felt better, was in gratitude. There was something about, and it hit me. I'm like, dude, think about this. Like, we are one of the ones kind of on the front lines right now. Like nobody else, like you spoke into her life, obviously gave her adjustment, but did so much more. And I think it just reminded me of, man, we got to be able to help other people have that level of hope and gratitude amongst the cast. I'm not discounting it. I'm not trying to justify that. It's there. It's real. But we can choose a certain way. And I just believe that, God has always used people. It's not just like, it's people, it's us, it's this message, right? You got to kind of pour on each other. And so, again, I would say I'm grateful for you, man, and doing this and things like that. And I think that we obviously, in the next couple of weeks, is going to be needed more and more and more. So I just encourage everybody out there. Obviously, we're in this together, and anything we could do or I can do, let me know.
Right. Dan, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here. Always a pleasure. And, yeah, this may happen again. We may have another conversation in a week or two. Who knows at this point? I hope to keep you all that are watching and engaged around the world to say that we care about you. We will get through this, and we'll support you here and after as well. So thanks. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Immunopalooza today here on Lifestyle Locker Radio. Make sure you scroll down, check out our guests' information, connect with them. Also, make sure you do head over to Lifestyle Locker Radio and click the tab that says book, and you can get a free ebook called Inside the Locker. It's my gift to you. Also, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, you know what you can do. The best thing, and I'm just going to ask, is head over to iTunes and give us that great 5-star review. Only if you want to do it, of course. We would greatly appreciate it. Our guests would appreciate it because it helps us connect to more people like you. So wherever and whenever you're listening to this, have a great day, evening, or night. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.